So you see, the entire Eastern wisdom says get rid of this ego. Ego is the doer, ego is the knower. I know you, it is because of the ego. I do some work because of the ego. And so what will happen if I get rid of the ego? Then who is the doer? So there most of the people get frustrated and they say, no, I cannot get rid of the ego. How can I work? So that is a very important third step. So here the third step, Master says, dedicate your life to the inner self, not to the ego. Or dedicate your life to the Lord or the God. Or you can say, if you have the highest vision, the highest altar in your life, what is exactly the vision of your life? There are three aspects and they all are the same. We have to understand it clearly so that we can start working, we can applying and implementing the third step in our life. So first step, be very clear, we have understood that real self is eternal. Eternal means what? It goes beyond the time. It is not found in the time. It is eternal also means it cannot be found in the past, present, and the future. One meaning. And it is always present in the past, it is present in the present, it is always present in the future. Why we say that? It is unchanging reality. What do you mean by not changing? So it does not undergo a modification. What is the proof? We should be very clear. We should have a pragmatic approach. What is pragmatic approach? That is how the master goes each word. It says, no, you have to understand it. What is pragmatic approach? We say, no, I'm very practical. But what do you mean by practical? I hate you, so I reject you. Is it pragmatic? Unless I discover why I hate you and why I have a hatred, then only I can reject or accept you. So we normally say, I like you, so I love you. For example, you are with your honey, you go out and you see the neighbor, and in front of the honey, you say, I love you, my neighbor. Then what the honey says, okay, that is why he goes out in the evening when the neighbor is out. Pay attention. Every thought is neither good and bad.
Every thought.
Every thought. No thought is good and bad. Be very clear about it. The thought you use in a particular situation, relation, condition makes the thought good and bad. I gave an example. I gave an example of a neighbor.
True.
You use the same word to your honey, I love you, it makes sense. And you say to the neighbor, I love you, honey gets upset. You use the same three words. No thought is good and bad. What is an attitude behind the thought? What that makes the thought good and bad? One thing. Second condition is that where we use that thought, in what situation, with what people, in what relationship, that makes the thought good and bad. I deviated. Come back. So we were talking about this real self. What is the pragmatic approach. That I, when I was 2 years old and your dad called your name and you said, "Yes, Dad." When you're 10 years old, I was the same, but body changed, mind has changed. I did not change. 20 years, I did not change. The body became 20 years old. Your mind has a maturity. 30 years old, I did not change. That I is not with reference to the body. That I, why it is not with reference to the body? If it is with reference to the body, you were 2 years old, that was I, and now you are 20 years old, that was the same I. No, it cannot be the same I if you use it with reference to the body. It means I is totally separate and different from the body and the mind. That I was crazy when I was 5 years old, now I am mature when I am 20 years old. The mind has changed, but I did not change. That I, real self, that is the consciousness. Another, so first.
But doesn't that sound like duality? That sounds like duality, though, if you're saying I and the mind.
Yes, in the beginning, first we have to remove the misconception, and then we will go what exactly is the body.
Okay.
So that duality dissolves. There is a duality in the water in the waves. There is a duality.
Yes.
There is a duality, the pot space. Well, this is a pot. But can you show me where is the pot? Here is the pot? No, this is the cap. No, but I see this is a clay. This is not a pot. So pot appears, but it is not. Everything is clay in the pot, whether you see it from the bottom. So we have a misconception about the duality. I deviated. Come back. We are.
But let me just ask you this: like, is duality just an appearance? Or is duality actually a thing?
Big question, and for that we have to complete the 40 steps. But anyhow, give you the simple answer: yes, the duality is just a delusion. It is a misconception.
Okay. Because what you're explaining of like ocean and waves,
yes,
it's just the ocean.
It's just the ocean. It is just the water, not the waves.
Yeah.
It is. This is the matter body. That is also the matter. Appearance is different. Name is different. It does not mean the matter is different. It is the same carbohydrate, protein, minerals, vitamins. Everything is there.
Yeah.
How can we say we two are different? But due to the misconception, one reason, and for empirical, for matter of convenience to recognize, we use the name and the form.
Yeah.
That is okay. We will continue to use, but internally we know we are one. Who knows that? Mind. Which mind? Pure mind. Mind that is full of delusion, it cannot know that we are one. So we are removing. The entire journey of the Eastern wisdom is to remove the ignorance, misconceptions, delusion. And once we remove, we find we live. We are one consciousness. That is what is known as awakening and realization. So the third step is coming back to the third step. Master says in this text that you dedicate all your entire life to the inner self. There are two options: mind, attitude. Behind that attitude, there are all past impressions. So if I leave the mind dedicated to the past impressions, it works through the ego. And ego does not have any existence as such. Can you show me where is the ego? Ego is just an I thought. And the I thought supported by likes and dislikes, pain and the pleasure, joy and the sorrow, preferences, hatred and the jealousy, it creates some in a virtual I. How can you say that? Am I speaking? Examine that. My lips are moving, tongue is functioning, voice box in the lungs are functioning. Am I my lungs? Then I can say that I'm speaking. Am I my lips? No. Am I tongue? No. I'm none of them. From where the I has come? For the sake of convenience, let us use it, but don't claim that it is me. So once I'm a speaker and 50 people appreciates me, other 40 people do not appreciate. So therefrom I create likes and dislikes, then I feel the joy and the sorrow, and that is how I live my life. Without knowing who am I. So I have to replace this I thought or deluded I with an existence, what we call the inner self. So we have to understand what is this inner self. I'm using every word cautiously, and you have to challenge your mind. No, I understood and I did not understood. For any change in the world, we need a doer and the knower. Any change in the world. I say it is no, we will meet at 8:30. Means there is a knower inside somewhere in me. Knower says I will meet at 9:30. And we need a doer, the knower, and the action. For any change in the world, for any change happening in the world, we need an action. Action, there must be some doer, there must be some knower. Understand this. Once you understand clearly, even though in later steps, Master makes it clear. Any change means action, and if there is an action, behind that action there must be a doer and the knower. There must be some intelligence that is working behind. If the intelligence is not there, there is no action. One group of the scientists say this world is created by chance. Okay. So if it is created by the chance, then Earth by chance will strike to the sun and the entire Earth will be destroyed. How can you say that it is created by chance? It is happening by chance. The Earth is constantly moving for millions of years on the same circumference, same circle. It is an action. There must be some intelligence behind it. No planets strike against each other. There must be some intelligence. The water existed for billions of years. There must be some intelligence. So that intelligence keeps the water as a water, the space as a space, fire as a fire. Otherwise, there is no way. If the intelligence is not working, if it is happening by chance, no way. How can you say it is happening by chance? Whether it is a non-living being, whether it is a living being, there is some intelligence is working, and if intelligence is working, there has to be a consciousness. If intelligence is there, there has to be consciousness. We are this body, 65, going to be 65 years old, consists of more than 60 billion cells alone present in the brain, and another 60 billion cells into the entire body. So make it about 1 trillion cells. Every cell has an intelligence, it is working. Intelligence is working behind every cell. Otherwise, the group of the cells cannot become the nose. Another group of the cells cannot become the eye. There has to be an intelligence. And if intelligence is there, consciousness is there.
Okay. Like intelligence in like a higher, not like a higher power. Like, what do you mean by intelligence?
Intelligence,
Like,
because if I say intelligence, it is consciousness.
nice.
Because consciousness is nothing but the knowledge, and the knowledge is nothing but the intelligence. We say, I like pasta and I eat pasta, and then I forget about it. It is the intelligence in the digestive system that digests the food. There has to be an intelligence. Without intelligence, this body cannot function. Body carries out millions and millions of functions every hour. It pumps the blood, it breathes, it perceives, it thinks, it digests the food, collects the garbage into another part of the body. And at a particular time, we have to excrete this.
Crazy.
We are not aware of that consciousness, that intelligence. Is that consciousness as the doer? Answer is yes. No. Science says matter has its own intelligence. Very good. Matter has its own intelligence. Means body has its own intelligence. Grand misconception in the science. Why? Why you say that? Why I say that? If my lungs, for example, has an intelligence, then that intelligence will continue to function, continue to help the lungs to function at the optimum level, even if I'm 90 years old. It does not happen. My body becomes old. That intelligence will not allow the body to become old, will not help the body to die. If the intelligence, if the consciousness is the property of the body will continue to remain young. Come on. Invalidate this argument. You have no reason. You don't find any reason. So it means even behind the matter, which includes the body, the mind, and all those impressions that we have, they are just the matter. If the matter is inert, it does not know itself, it does not know anything else, it does not have a consciousness as its property. If it does not have a consciousness as its property, it means the body is just a matter, and there is something, consciousness, working behind that regulates all the functioning, that keeps the body as one unit, having 1 trillion cells. And the beauty is that that intelligence, that consciousness is present in every cell. That consciousness is present behind the earth. The earth does not have an instrument like the sense organs and the mind to manifest it. But behind it, it is present. Behind the sun, it is present. Behind the plants, it is present. If the one intelligence is not there, if one consciousness is not there behind millions and trillions of objects and living and the non-living species, then you cannot have a food chain. The lion comes on the top of the food chain. How the lion recognizes the food? We say they do not have that intelligence, they have it. How the cows, who is purely a vegetarian, recognizes the food because of that consciousness. No, I say, no, 2 atoms of hydrogen, 1 atom of oxygen makes the water. Behind that, there is an intelligence. Why the only 2 atoms of hydrogen mixes with the oxygen? Why not 2 atoms of hydrogen mixes with the ozone and other chemicals? And that we find the water has the same composition whether you are in United States or in Atlantic Ocean or Antarctica or India or anywhere. There has to be one consciousness present behind anything and everything in this universe that brings the change. according to the intelligence provided by that consciousness to that non-living species or living species. Can we say that consciousness, inner self? Yes, it is the inner self of everything. It is different than the real self. But that inner self is consciousness, and that consciousness regulates the change. The earth doesn't move, deviate from its center. The sun doesn't deviate. Even one fraction of a millisecond it changes, the entire planetary system will be disturbed. It does not happen for millions of years. Behind that, there is one consciousness. It is the same consciousness here, it is the same consciousness here. So if I say the consciousness, which is non-changing, manifest the change in different things together is the inner self. We are talking about let us dedicate all our actions, means the change in our life, the desires, to that inner self. We declare that you are the doer. I reject my ego as the doer and the knower. Because the inner self is unlimited. It is present in everything. It is infinite. So when I dedicate all my actions, I do not remain as a doer and the knower. What happens? I absorb into that supreme intelligence. That is fractional part of law of attraction you might have studied. They have picked up some of the principles. But I'm not deviating to the law of attraction. So it must be that consciousness is present. It must be because of the intelligence, consciousness, or you can say the doer and the knower. For the sake of understanding, that is the inner self of everything in the world. Every change is affected by that inner self. How can you say that inner self or the consciousness is affecting every change in the world? We are so much crazy people. We have created from the water the soft drink and the hard drink. But the quality, the nature of the water, even in the hard and the soft drink, does not change. It still remains the water. It is because of that intelligence. Can you imagine if the water becomes, for example, the water does not change its nature. The essential nature of the water is coolness. The water does not change into fire. Water does not become the space. Even if it is vaporized, they contain the essential nature of the water. It is because of that intelligence. There is nothing you can reject this idea. We have limited intelligence. And we have an I thought ego as the knower and the doer. And who has the infinite intelligence? That consciousness. That is the inner self of everything, including this mouse. It has an inner self, river, water, all the elements, material and non-material things. How come water has two elements? How come the hydrogen contains one element? How the plant, when you sow the seed and it becomes a tree because of that intelligence. How does not the orange tree becomes a mango tree? It is because of that intelligence. There is something like, you can say, the supreme intelligence, the infinite intelligence is working behind everything in this entire universe. Nothing moves without of that intelligence. That is known as the inner self. And that inner self is also present within us. let us dedicate all our actions to the inner self.
So we are the infinite intelligence.
Yes, because when I dedicate all my actions and bypass the knower and the doer as an ego, I can open to that supreme intelligence.
Mm.
Animals cannot do it because they are not conscious. They do not have a free intellect, so they cannot make a choice. We can make a choice. We have a free intellect. Earth, sun, planets revolves around their center because of that intelligence. No accident takes place. Can you imagine? We don't see. We are always living. We are living like a cocoon, with a small eye, and that small eye gets hurt, and we make a big issue. So it means we are living habitually, unconsciously, animally. We do not have any power to change the constituents of the water. We do not have a power to change the very essential nature of the air. We do not have a power to change the space. We do not have a power. Why? Because that is the supreme intelligence. We have to clearly understand, we have to contemplate and reflect. We have to contemplate and reflect. What is that understanding? I missed that part. Understanding means that I look back into the cause and effect relationship. And I have to reach to a point where no cause becomes the effect. Where is the, this is the mouse. The cause of the mouse is plastic, some chip which has a, okay, so what is the cause of the chip? Is the matter. What is the cause of the matter? Because this matter, this chip, has its essential nature to function when it is put into order. Means the water does not become the space. If I drink the water and becomes the space, we are gone. So there must be an ultimate cause, is that intelligence is working behind everything. So here begins the journey to the spirituality. I find a common ground. This is, normally we say, I'm a spiritual guy, I'm not a religious. That does not make any difference. People have the same attitude, same behavior, same reaction, whether you claim that you are a spiritual guy, you are a religious guy. Only difference is that you don't go to the church, you don't go to the religious places to offer a prayer.
Yeah.
And that causes more problem to you. Because your ego becomes a little bigger.
By not going.
By not going. And even by going, you claim that you look at those people, they don't go to the church and I go. That also becomes big ego. So in both ways, you work with the same attitude.
Yeah.
Same reaction. Remember, this is very important to understand. But if the ego is absent, then what happens? Then we open ourselves to the tremendous intelligence, that infinite consciousness with us. I do not reflect on, look at this orange tree. Remains the orange tree. Mango tree remains the mango tree. Look at the 60 billion cells, the human body. Every cell contains that intelligence. Why I say so? How the group of the cells forms the eye, forms the nose, forms my teeth, forms my lungs. We take it casually. No, my parents, have made me born. No, there is some intelligence behind it. My parents did not think that, okay, I've made the neck like this with having this nose, this eyes. No details. Not possible. How can my parents have all the details of my structure and functioning?
So
There
people just
has to
call
be
that God?
inner self. We are holding back. We are not using the word God. We will use the word God and we will explain it. Just say to it, it is the inner self. The inner self means there is some consciousness behind the change, behind that working, behind that any change that is happening. It is because of that consciousness.
Okay.
If cell has a property, cell means matter. If matter has a property of that intelligence, then it will never leave the cell. And if it never leaves the cell, then cell will remain young. Then I will never become old. I will not die. So what is the main point here? One is the matter which is subjected to change, and one is the consciousness that is present behind all the change in the matter, in all the beings in this entire cosmos, including Earth and the sun and the planet and the plants and the trees and the frog and the ants and the insect and the elephant. It is the one consciousness that is working in the elephant which gives a limited intelligence. It is working in me given as a limited intelligence. Be 100% clear. Body is matter, no intelligence in the body. But because of that consciousness, that intelligence is present in the body. Now, when the intelligence leaves the body, body dies. Body leaves. Do you see the difference between a person and the body? The dead body is there. We say, oh, dead body is there. We don't say the person is there. Someone knocks the door and he says, oh, the person has come. You don't say that body has come.
Yeah.
Body has come. Be very clear. I use the term and then I become aware. Yes. I see you. What is that I? That consciousness guides the eyes to see you. Eyes cannot see you. You remove the consciousness and ask the eyes to see you. Not possible. Remove the consciousness and smell, taste. Not possible. That is the inner self. It is the inner self of all the five sense organs. It is the inner self of five motor organs. It is the same inner self of mind. It is the same inner self of the intellect. It is also the inner self behind the ego. We sleep. We don't know where we are. That intelligence is carry out all the functions. If the science says the body has an intelligence, then why the dead body does not carry all the functions? It is the same matter. Intelligence has left. Consciousness has left. And that consciousness, which works with millions of beings, is what we call the inner self. Body is a matter, so intelligence is not the nature of the body, not the nature of any matter. It is separate, it is independent. So this master is pointing out we have to dedicate, we have yet to come to that point, dedicate all your actions, all what you think, all what you do, all actions you are maintaining in awareness, a recognition. Recognition means you are aware all the time. Whatever you are doing, I am speaking, but internally you should realize I am not a speaker, it is that intelligence is working. You are listening, it is that intelligence is enabling the ears to listen, mind to understand. Enabling. That enabling power is the consciousness. Otherwise, you can create an eye, no problem, you create an eye, but there is no consciousness in that eye. No way. Eyes cannot see. It is because of the intelligence, because of that consciousness, we can grow different crops in different seasons. It is the highest level of adaptation in Arizona of those animals takes place because of that intelligence. That intelligence pervades the entire cosmos. Whether it manifests in a matter or not, whether it manifests and how it manifests, to what degree, it depends on that intelligence. It does not depend on me. Any change, any modification in the entire universe is taking place because of that consciousness. So instead of referring my actions in the world, in my personal, professional, and social life, I recognize, I'm aware that all is happening because of that consciousness, not because of I thought, not because of doer. I'm not a doer. So when I drop being a doer consciously in the field of awareness, I open to the source of that supreme intelligence. That is known as the prayer. Otherwise, you simply repeat the prayer, Our Father in heaven, holy be your name, your kingdom come. I'm repeating habitually. How many years? Oh, I've been repeating it 20 years. Okay, so you are in a grade 1 and you pass that grade 1 with a distinction, and then you say, you go return home and you say to the dad, no, I will continue to study in the grade 1. Why? No, no, I like it. You are doing, come on, what do you mean by that? We have not an inch of the progress repeating the prayer for 20 years every day, going to these religious places, nothing is happening. Because I don't understand for what I'm praying. I don't recognize. I don't recognize what is happening in me. What is that consciousness? And that is why no change is happening. So no change is happening. We blame all, it is the responsibility of the priest and the Bible and the other religious texts. We are living in ignorance. Whether we claim we are a spiritual person or are not a spiritual person doesn't make any difference. That intelligence, that consciousness is present. It is one consciousness, appears as many. Appears as a frog, appears as me, appears as you, appears as an elephant, appears as an orange tree, appears as a mango tree, appears as an earth. Where there is a change, behind that there is one consciousness, one intelligence that has to work. Otherwise, there is no change is possible. Action is carried out by intelligence, by consciousness. But consciousness is independent. It is not a part and a property of the body. It is not the part and property of the matter. There is intelligence behind every change. So there must be a doer of that change. And that doer is the consciousness, not the I thought. How come a frog recognizes its food? We say a frog does not have that intelligence. No, it is there. It has got the limited intelligence. How the cow recognizes its food is the grass. How the lion recognizes its prey is the flesh. They don't have a power of discernment, discrimination. But the intelligence says this is the way you have to work in this body. In the body of the frog, in the body of the ant, in the body of the mosquito. And Master says that intelligence can enliven in the intellect if you make a right choice to enter into the spirituality. Well, they don't have a choice. We have a choice. So we are missing that part. We are destroying our human life. God has graced us, or existence, you see, has blessed us with that intelligence, that intellect, which is a free will. Intellect means free will. Free will means I have a choice. I use that choice to grow into, to touch base with that consciousness, which is called the inner self. We don't do it. When we don't do it, we are frustrated. All problems and sufferings because of not connecting to that consciousness, but connecting to my ego, limited consciousness. So the next puzzle comes in the journey of the spirituality. Puzzle, doubt, question. Cause of the entire cosmos be consciousness cannot be the matter. The cause of anything and everything is that ultimate cause. What is understanding? I have to find out. I am aware of the cause and effect. That is an understanding, that is a knowledge. You have to examine the ultimate cause of anything and everything, any change and every change, including the matter, non-living being and living being, is the consciousness. I'm going slowly. It is the consciousness or intelligence. You can use the word intelligence, you can use the word consciousness. We normally say it is the inner self because that will make a sense to discover if there is a God or not God. So if we really understand and we are clear that the ultimate cause of anything and everything, millions and trillions of objects, is consciousness, that consciousness is beyond time and the space. Consciousness does not have a name in the form. And if it has a name in the form, if it has a form, then it will change. Mouse has a form, so it is limited. Consciousness is unlimited because it is present in everywhere. How simple it is. The body is limited. But that consciousness is unlimited, is infinite. It transcends the time and the space. And it has no modification, it does not change. It remains the same. Millions of years, all the living species have the same consciousness, same intelligence. And if that is the consciousness, it is all powerful. Obviously, it is present everywhere, so it is all powerful. It is all pervading. It is not changing. So on that consciousness, this mechanism is superimposed. It has become a mouse. This body and the mind is superimposed. This has become this guy. Superimposed means it does not change the quality and the trait of the consciousness. No change there. In the inner self, change is on the periphery, on the circumference. The body changes, mind changes, intellect, I thought. That consciousness remains constant. So one conscious, one entity, unchanging entity, all powerful, never changing, that is one entity, and there is another entity which is constantly changing. Whatever is changing is one entity, whether it is body or the matter or the air or the five elements or the entire earth. Where there is a change, that is one entity. Where there is no change, that is another entity. That is another entity. So when that consciousness works together, that unchanging identity works with the changing identity, that is known as the inner self. That is known as the formless God. It is present. That is why it is present everywhere. It is known as a formless God. We will also come to the God with a form later. Who is known as the God? Inner self is not to be believed, but to be recognized consciously. We see everything as if done by the nature. I sow the seed and it becomes a tree. No, matter does not have a consciousness, it does not have an intelligence. So we have two entities, unchanging identity, consciousness, plus a changing that has an ability to change. And the effect to change is done by the consciousness. Say, for example, if the clay does not have a property to modify itself, nothing can be done. But what is the enabling factor to change? Enabling factor is the consciousness. Enabling factor to undergo a change in the body is the consciousness. That is independent. How can you say that? Question. We have to find the ultimate cause. We have to. If you don't find the ultimate cause, and if the cause becomes an effect, it means it is changing. So if it is changing, then it is not a consciousness. What are you saying? We say the consciousness is independent, that is all powerful, that is all pervading, plus the changing entity, inner self, both together is understood as the inner self. So now we have a question, dedicate all my work is the moment I feel I have done it. No. I just recognize that entity, consciousness has done it. Just say in your mind, become aware of that mind. Everything is done by the mind. Everything is done by the consciousness. So the problem comes, that too is done by the consciousness. Why? To help me evolve. To help me evolve. So now I'm not affected by the problems. I see it calmly. I resolve that problem. If there is a problem, it is difficult. Make it easy. Who makes it easy? The all-pervading consciousness. I thought cannot solve all the problems of the life, but that inner self can solve all the problems of life. So in the human race, human being, we have two eyes. One eye is the ego, we call it the ego. How to recognize that ego, where this I thought is there and that I is changing, that is ego. In the morning, I wake up in the morning, I'm upset. In the afternoon, I'm happy because I meet the friend whom I like so much. In the evening, I'm tired. This I is changing. This is the ego.
Yeah.
This is the ego. But behind there is another I that never changes. Why? I'm aware that I'm tired. So I'm tired is the ego, but I'm aware That is the real I, that is the consciousness. I am stressed, so I'm aware that I am stressed. That I am aware is the second I behind it, that knows I am stressed, and that stress belongs to the body and the mind. There are always two eyes working all the time. Only the human race can recognize these two eyes, no animals, because they do not have a free intellect, free choice. They cannot discern. We can recognize. Not very mystical, but very clear identification is there. Look back yesterday, what you had a moment of tiredness, you have a moment of anger, you have a moment of pleasure. So all we use I was angry, I was upset, I was happy, I earned this much, and that I constantly changing, that constantly changing I is the ego, and that covers the real I, superimposes. So just a recognition behind the changing I, just being aware behind the changing I is the real prayer. You need not to go anywhere. Why? That inner self is present everywhere.
So just to recognize the ego.
Yeah, recognize the ego, at the same time recognize behind that ego there is another I. That is the inner self. There is a real self behind the ego that appears as a witness of all our actions. So we recognize here is a fake I. Oh, I am a self-made man. Okay, so you're a self-made man. Okay. Can you really help the heart to pump your blood? Let me stop for 5 minutes. You are a self-made man. So that is a big ego when we say we are a self-made man. Where is that self-made man? Where is this self-made? Body carries out millions of functions every day to keep me, enabling me to work and live. That I even don't know. And I'm a self-made man? It's a big ego.
Yeah.
So ego prevents you to recognize behind the fake I there is a real I. That consciousness does not change. The real I means that consciousness does not change. When we say I am, when the moment I say I am, I have done this, I recognize that it is done by that consciousness. Two eyes are working simultaneously. And I gave an example, all the cops behind, all the cops protecting the president are made to act according to the president. But in case of the criminals, these cops are handcuffing. They handcuff the criminals. So this I has handcuffed my mind. That's why I have a limited intelligence. That's why I do not think widely. I don't think with the clarity. That's why I have a confusion. You'll be surprised. My master used to say that we have something around 20,000 eyes every day, subconsciously, habitually, impulsively. And it accumulates millions of further impressions for the next day. That is the way of that is the egoistic life. False I always change minimum 20,000 times every day. Can you imagine? The limited intellect, limited mind cannot take stock of it. When we become aware of these eyes, the frontal eye, that ego eye, that is constantly changing, you simply recognize that this I made me stressful, this I made me angry, this I made me agitated, because I'm aware that I'm angry. So that I am aware is the real I.
Mm.
If I say, can you become angry tomorrow at 10 a.m., you cannot become. The real I comes in front. The fake I gives you 10 reasons. No, there is no reason to be angry. Okay? Give me the reason, I will create that reason. Still, you do not become. That simple recognition changes your attitude.
Yeah.
Simple recognition. Can I live with that kind of a recognition? The morning I. So there comes the love for the inner self or love for the God. What do you mean by the love? I'm attached to my changing I. Now I'm attached to something yet to be known. After understanding, though there is something that definitely this is the inner self. So I develop love for it. How? Just to recognize, just to be aware, just to recognize this is the false I. When I say I have done this, I will be doing this, I'm the doer, I'm the knower, this is all the false I. Give all the credit to the consciousness behind. That is the prayer, that is the love for the God. When you are living like a primates, then you go to the religious places and you say, God, I love you. Doesn't affect anything, doesn't happen anything. Because I do not understand it. So with the misconception, with the misunderstanding, if I am praying, it does not bring any result. But prayer is just a recognition. Otherwise, what happens? I start living an intellectual fantasy. I love Jesus and I hate Krishna. I love Krishna or I hate Jesus. It does not make any difference. I'm not evolving. I'm just like a primate, like an animal. Animals work impulsively, so we are also working impulsively. That does not make anyone spiritual. That does not help us in awakening. Unless we recognize two entities, one entity never changing, full of intelligence, consciousness. Other entity on which this intelligence works brings forth the change. And the change is so orderly. That's why the tiger doesn't eat grass, the cows doesn't eat flesh. We say they do not have carry the intelligence, but that consciousness helps them, enables them to approach to the food they like. They have to eat. Same fertilizer, same soil. You have a lemon tree and you have a mango tree. It has to work. Without intelligence, my friend, it cannot work. It does not happen by chance. Every time it cannot happen by chance. Maybe one day the mango tree will become the lemon tree. If it is happening by chance. No, it is happening by intelligence. And we create an intellectual fantasy in our life, the world of people, emotions, relations. Unnecessarily, we are engaged in those things. Unnecessarily, because of the ego. So if ego 20,000 ego points every day, it creates a favorable, unfavorable situations today. So I want to turn unfavorable situation into a favorable. So the same ego is constantly working days and nights, and habit and impulsive nature gets strengthened. They are known as the sins and the virtues. God has nothing to do with it. Inner self has nothing to do with it. I'm responsible for it. Never go and start creating a feeling, God will punish me. No, God is not there to punish us. That inner change. that inner change, that inner consciousness, inner self, plus whatever is changing in the world in one category and no change in the other. No change in that category is only one consciousness. And in the changing category are trillions, millions of living species. I don't know, I cannot answer, but in one text it says there are 8.4 million species in the cosmos. Science has found around 2 or 3 million species. Because of that consciousness, body follows the universal law of change. Mind follows the universal law of change. You cannot reverse it. You can delay it. You can postpone the aging, but you cannot reverse that change. This body has to go. Universal law of change. Body, infant, childhood, youth, old, then bye-bye. Now we are not a person, we are a body. Body has to follow the law of change. We cannot stop aging. We cannot stop body growing. It is subjected to change.
Yeah.
When scientists went to the God and said, look, I have created a living being. You claim that you have created. God said, where you brought the raw material? Raw material belongs to the God. First you create raw material. Find the ultimate cause first.
It's true.
We do not change the body. We cannot stop the body changing. We can arrest some change, we can delay it, but we cannot stop the change. We cannot stop growing, helping the mind to grow. You do nothing and still there is a possibility that your mind lives totally unconsciously, you become an insane, but that's you are arresting, but still the mind is growing. So from where this ego develops. Look at the body. Mind says the body is subjected to birth and death. So there is a fear of the death, life in the breath. So this breath is the energy element, and this energy element is subjected to hunger and thirst. If you provide the energy, the life breath continues. Mind is subjected to sorrow and joy. Intellect is subjected to likes and dislikes. So we have to take care that they both are the change, whether birth and the death is change, hunger and thirst is the change, joy and the sorrow is subjected into the mind is the change, likes and dislikes is the change. Can I bypass that? Can I transcend that? Can I recognize that I am different from all these elements of the change? I recognize the inner self as a separate entity in me working all the time. How? By prayer. What is the prayer? The recognition. I live into that awareness. Whenever the I comes in front, I recognize behind that I there is a real I, the inner self is there. Just a recognition is the greatest prayer you can offer. You can say inner self is a God, so you can offer that. Understand. That understanding demands a lot of contemplation and reflection.
Okay.
Why it demands a lot of contemplation, reflection? I normally tell people that at least an hour or half an hour every day, you close your room, no disturbances, and feel that you are living in a solitude for half an hour. Solitude means you have left the entire world of relations, of objects, luxuries, of pain, everything you have left, including your pets. You just for half an hour you are in solitude. Don't go for a retreat to any forest for a solitude. Do it every day in your house. Tell everyone, close your phone. Any thought that comes, if it pertains to the world, leave it.
Okay.
Become alone. If you do it regularly for 2 or 3 and 5 weeks, maybe it may happen in a week, but normally the period is given 5 weeks. In 5 weeks, you recognize that inner self devoid of the entire world, including the false I. Any thought comes, you recognize it pertains to the world. No thought, you cannot have any thought without the word. So there is no thought, you have rejected all of them. With awareness, you have recognized in the field of the awareness and the pure consciousness dawns in the solitude, you find you are alone. What is meaning of alone? All one. Loneliness means I have lot of expectations from the world. Being alone means all one. When you reach to that state, you will recognize that I'm walking alone, I'm living alone, I'm working alone. What is that alone? It is the inner self. That inner self is not attached to the parents, not attached to the honey, not craving for anything outside. It is separate. But the I outside gets attached, gets detached. So we are able to separate the two I completely. That is the most important state in the journey of the spirituality. That is the meaning, that I now identify with that inner self which is unchanging. And I am aware that all actions, the doer and the knower, are silently done by that inner self, not by me. You become totally alone. That I causes the relations and attachment and intellectual fantasy. That inner self, we will still have to understand, but that inner self, in different religions, we will understand that these in different religions are known as the God. It is free from the name and the form. It is pure consciousness. It is present all the time. Even if I am sleeping, that consciousness is present in protecting my body. That's why it is a difference between I'm sleeping and I'm dead.
Yeah.
It is present all the time, in all locations, in everyone. So just recognition means awareness or cognition. I have a cognitive ability to recognize the doer, knower is that inner self. What happens? You are crushing your ego without fighting, without talking of the sins and the virtues. Recognition means you are offering the false I to the inner self. That is the meaning of the third step. Dedicate all those actions as a worship unto the Lord.
All right.
A recognition is just a worship. Prayer is nothing but a recognition there is an existence which is above body, breath, mind, intellect, and ego. That is the real prayer. Recognition of that consciousness, that awareness, that existence that does not change. In front, that ego changes. So that ego, that 20,000 eyes per day, is recognizing behind you there is a real I. That is the greatest prayer you can offer. That is the prayer. Nothing more than that. But to do that, my desires, my craving, my expectations push me every time. I forget that. So that comes as a fourth step. How to have an binding desire. What is binding desire? That makes me forget the real I, and how the unbinding desire. I still have those desires, but they are unbinding. That keeps me, maintains that self awareness of that inner self. That we will